G'day there folks, it's Connor here again from Marky Industries. Hope you're all having a fantastic day. Anyway, we're reading some more stories from Reddit today, so hit like and subscribe, sit back, relax, and let's enjoy. Alrighty, this one was posted on Am I the A-Hole? It's written by user CrapKidThrowaway, and it's titled, Am I the A-Hole? My husband was nicer to my BFF than her own husband. I'm writing this post because my best friend, Kate, husband, Bert, called my husband, Tim, an a-hole. I have historically kept my opinion of Bert's behaviour to a minimum on the grounds that good friends say their piece once and then love each other through crap relationships, but I'm asking internet strangers to be the judge. I am travelling for work. Kate is stuck at home working at 7 months pregnant on modified bed rest. Generally during the week I drop over once or twice to bring her family some dinner. Tim cooks extra portions once a week to share. Cheer her up, read her oldest a couple of bedtime stories so that mum can go to bed early and get some sleep. Bert works an office job. Stressful, I'm sure, but during her pregnancy he's been working longer and longer hours, salaried, not overtime. She's been sad and a bit lonely. Yes, I've suggested cancelling. With that for background, this evening she and I were texting. It was about 6ish, and she got a craving for a taco place near my house, and importantly, near Bert's office. She says she asked him to grab her some on his way home. He said he's not stopping. He's got work at home and she should just DoorDash something close. This makes her extremely sad. She says irrationally sad, but you be the judge, because he used to surprise her with her favourite tacos and now he can't be bothered. As one does, I tell Tim. I'm 3 states away, so it was just part of our chat as I was getting back to the hotel and getting ready for work dinner. I get back from dinner, and Tim had gone and picked her up the tacos, remembered the bag of things I'd collected for her and the kid that were in my car, and pulled a tuna casserole from the freezer. Bert hates tuna casserole. He dropped them off on the porch and just texted her that there were some things I wanted her to have. Then Bert gets home. Did he bring tacos, colouring books, or a good attitude? No, he did not. He called Tim to tell him that he was an a-hole for showing him up. Other colourful language was also used, including some fairly sexist nonsense. He also texted me telling me to keep my husband away from his wife. Tim did respond rudely when Bert called. Kate says he told Bert he was a failure as a human, a man, a father, and a husband. Apparently that caused Bert to scream expletives so loud their daughter started to cry. Not good. Tim then hung up on Bert, blocked him, and texted Kate that if she needed someone in an emergency, she knew where to call, but he wasn't putting up with her crap husband any longer. It's a giant cluster and I have no idea what's going to happen. My husband feels bad things escalated so much, particularly since their daughter was crying. He feels like an a-hole at the moment. Obviously Bert thinks he's an a-hole. I think he's a sweet man. What do you guys think? It sounds like Tim did show Bert up, and honestly, Bert deserves it. If doing the bare minimum for his wife is showing him up, then I'd hate to see what this guy's like most of the time. Bert's only lashing out at Tim because he knows he himself is a scumbag, and he's insecure about that. Let's go to the comments. Not the a-hole. Bert is the only a-hole in this situation. Also, $5 says Bert didn't want to stop for tacos because Bert has not been staying late at the office and he was nowhere near the good taco place. Bert is getting shown up because Bert isn't even phoning in being a supportive husband and partner. He's sending a brain-damaged carrier pigeon. Kate needs to rethink if this is what she wants for her and her kids long term. Is this the model of a relationship she wants them to see? An angry a-hole who ignores an easy request from his pregnant partner and then goes off when a friend helps? Bert is crap. Kate needs to address this. However, I think Bert wasn't at his office near the taco place. Has he lost his job or having an affair? Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Bert is the a-hole. He was too tired to get the tacos. His wife's best friend asked her husband to get them, and he did. He should have been happy she got the tacos and he didn't have to go get them, and said thank you, while being grateful his family has such wonderful support in their lives. Instead, his insecure self got angry and made it about himself. I'm glad Kate has you guys in her life for when she becomes a single mum. Bert's a jerk and everyone else is great, especially Tim. I hope that at some point after she has had her baby, Kate is going to realise that Bert is dead weight and dump his sorry ass. I bet that Tim and you think that can't happen quickly enough. Opie comments on what Kate thought about Bert's attitude towards Tim. She's super ticked at Bert. It'll probably blow over, but at the moment she's extremely angry with him. She doesn't think Tim meant any harm, except that of course the tuna casserole was a bit petty. Could Kate stay with Opie and Tim? She's always welcome, of course, but I don't think she'd move their daughter out of the neighbourhood. I think they will work out. She does love him very much. That said, he's at a hotel tonight, and I don't think that's happened before. Another comment says, no good deed goes unpunished. That being said, you guys are way too involved in their lives. You're cooking for them multiple times a week? Opie replies, yeah, she's on bed rest. We have a meal train. I do Wednesday and sometimes Fridays. Her sister does 2 days. Several of her friends trade off the other days. And is Kate able to stay with someone, family or friends? Opie says her daughter is at the sister's house tonight. She has a daughter about the same age, so they do this all the time. We're going to rotate staying over until the night nurse can start, I think on Tuesday. They did have a part-time nanny, but that was the affair partner, so yeah. Her sister has been filling in since she was put on bed rest. Okay, Opie updates the next day. Bert did email Tim this morning to apologise. Bert said he'd forgotten I was out of town and he didn't realise that Tim was dropping off the meal train food. It was a weird email for many reasons, but Tim responded politely, if non-committal. Tim hasn't changed his view of Bert in part because of what happened between Bert and Kate this afternoon. Bert also texted me to apologise, but I didn't get his message until after I landed, and by then everything else had happened. I've elected not to respond. Bert went home around noon after staying at a hotel last night. Kate's sister had taken their daughter to the park, so Bert and Kate could talk it out. Short version is that Bert has been avoiding Kate because she's not happy during this pregnancy. I mentioned in a comment that Kate had been married previously, and shortly after her first husband died, she had complications in a pregnancy that forced her on bed rest. Unfortunately, her son didn't make it. Her current pregnancy is bringing up a lot of painful memories, and she's scared she won't be able to make it to full term. So yes, she's not as cheery as she was when she was pregnant with their daughter. It's a difficult time. Bert is frustrated and angry that she's not happy, so he's been staying late and ignoring her until she stops doing that. I know that sounds horrid, but I think they could have worked through those feelings. But as he was explaining how he felt, he said she should be glad her son wasn't there because otherwise she wouldn't have this life at all. Yeah, that still knocks the wind out of me. It's so cruel. She did talk to him about that statement, but the explanation doesn't get better. In any event, for her that was just the end. She told him she was done. They can work out joint custody, but the marriage was over. She called her sister, and she and her husband encouraged Bert to leave. Currently, Kate's not angry or sad or panicked. She's just done. Personally, I'm surprised, since they've weathered some fairly crappy things, including infidelity by him, but I guess that was the line. In any event, her D&D friends are over there for Saturday games night, and they're eating waffles. She thought it was important for the internet to know that waffles are appropriate separation food. In terms of her well-being, which many kind souls were worried about, they have a prenup. The house is hers, his family's property is his. I'm sure there will be a fight over custody, but she'll be financially okay. In any event, she has family and friends who will help and support, regardless of what happens. One comment says, "Wow, this guy's just wow. I have nothing nice to say. I'm glad she's getting out though. Who throws their wife's previous miscarriage in her face? Just no." Opie says, "I don't know if this is worse, but it wasn't a miscarriage. She delivered. He was just too premature to survive. It was a horrible time." Opie comments on her and her husband standing up for Kate. Pretty much, with an added BS of saying he wasn't one of those cucks who would raise another man's child like her friends' husbands, two of which are amazing stepdads, so F him sideways. I'm choosing not to look up the origin of that insult tonight as I'm already so mad and jet-lagged and not coherent. Kate's husband insulting statement about her deceased son. The explanation was he would never have dated her if she had a kid, and she wouldn't have changed careers, so basically she wouldn't have her husband, daughter or her job if her son had lived. Plus he insulted men who are stepfathers with some sexist nonsense. And a comment says, "Of course he was previously unfaithful. Glad she's kicked him to the curb. Sending good thoughts her way." Another update 4 weeks later. Kate and Bert are still separated. It took her a few weeks, but she finally spoke to her attorney and asked them to start the paperwork. One problem has been locating him for service and scheduling parenting time so it wouldn't appear that she is withholding his child. The night he was escorted out, he apparently went to a hotel, then told his boss he had to work remotely. Where the F was that option? And then moved home to his mother. Kate has reached out to him multiple times to schedule parenting time and only found out last week that he wasn't in the state. She finally called his mum to see if she wanted to come and see her grandchild for Thanksgiving and learned that he was there the entire time. In any event, they finally made a parenting schedule and, at her attorney's suggestion, agreed he could have the first holiday since the separation. He was supposed to come down on Wednesday and pick up their daughter for a few days so she could spend time with his side of the family. So we planned a Friendsgiving to keep her spirits up since her little one would be away for the first time. Fun? Not fun, but it's what families do. Anyway, he didn't show. Thursday morning, still no Bert. Kate was worried since he was supposed to drive down, so she called his mum again. Bert was fine, but didn't feel up to dealing with this. Yup, heard it myself with my own 2 ears. Kiddo was thankfully still asleep, so she didn't have the joy of watching her mum have a complete and utter meltdown. Kate didn't have the greatest childhood herself, and knowing her POS husband was completely indifferent to his daughter was just too much. She was sobbing so hard she couldn't breathe, and then started to have contractions. Then her sister and I started panicking. Had we been thinking clearly, we probably would have remembered that she had BH with both pregnancies and calmly assessed the situation after she wasn't so overwrought. Instead, I panic dialed her OB and we rushed her to the hospital. She's fine, baby is fine. Kiddo has now more screen time and junk food in 2 days than her mother has let her have in her entire life because I'm not a great babysitter. Kate will be in the hospital for a few more days as her OB is concerned with her stress levels. Her sister's husband called Bert, but thus far he has not made any attempts to do something useful, like, I don't know, take care of his own child. So I guess there won't be a fight over custody. A crappy update, but it's been a crappy weekend. If anyone knows how to cheer up a little girl who is missing her parents that doesn't involve McDonald's and Bluey, please let me know. If there was still Toys R Us, I'd probably be bankrupt. Update, thank you all for the suggestions, particularly for shaking my brain loose. I had a sewing room full of supplies and hadn't even thought of crafts. We spent all day today designing and making doll clothes and matching scrunchies for her mum, her aunt, uncle, cousin, etc. She's happy and tired, and I couldn't be more grateful for internet strangers. On the less good news, Kate is going to be in the hospital for the duration. She and the baby are fine, but due to some complications, they want her to stay there until she delivers. Kiddo is staying with us until tomorrow. We live close to the hospital, but she'll be heading back to Sister's place, which is close to her preschool, tomorrow night. Kate wants her to have as much normalcy as feasible. I'm still worried, but the doctors are great and seem to have it under control. One comment says, do not think that. Eventually, Bert will wake the F up or will meet with a lawyer who will tell him some very harsh truths. He'll realise that if he doesn't fight for and get custody, the child support he'll have to pay will be higher than if he had 50-50 or primary custody. They may have a prenup, but prenups have nothing to do with child support, which is a right of the child, not a right of the parent. Tell your friend to keep a detailed log of all these interactions with her soon-to-be ex, or do it for her while she's emotionally incapacitated. Have her send an email to Bert and his mum, or a text message, anything written, that essentially goes, so we collaborated on a holiday custody schedule. I gave you first holiday since our separation with our daughter out of good faith, and of wanting to show that we can co-parent peacefully. You agreed, and then you let her down at the very last minute because you didn't feel up to dealing with this. She has to do the same for all the interactions that are verbal, so she can have a paper trail to show the judge. Encourage her to keep on reaching out to Bert in the name of collaborative co-parenting so he can never win the argument of, she withholds the children from me, Your Honour, all in writing, or followed by writing summarising the content of the conversation if it happens verbally. If she can't do that because of her health condition and her emotional state, she can have someone else do all of that for her while she's CC'd on the emails. Quote, I might be dealing with the last weeks of pregnancy and separation and it's hard, but I'm still doing all that I can as a mother to make sure it does not impact our children negatively and make sure the transition process is smooth and co-parenting as possible, is the message you want to be able to display to a judge if it comes to that. Do not rile Bert up and make sure that your friend is not either, but when he acts unhinged, despondent or irresponsible, bring it up in writing. And always talk about Bert in good terms, at least in front of the daughter, so he can't have the parental alienation defense. Have your friend squeaky clean so there is nothing he can grab onto for custody. No, I acted terribly, but so did she, Your Honour. It will be all... So the plaintiff was being a dismissive turned aggressive arsehole the entire time, while the defendant was being as collaborative and in good faith as could be. Primary custody to the defendant. Opie says this was exact advice her attorney gave us yesterday. Thank you. My money is on Bert being happy as a clam that he can now be with his side piece without burden. That'll be short-lived, and he's going to try and win her back as soon as he sees how much he has to pay for child support. Document all of the attempts to give him access and the failures on his part. It will help her custody battle, and ultimately cause him to have to pay more support. I'm so sorry to hear this update. Not surprised, but sorry. For the little girl, how willing are you to do crafts? Hit up the dollar store for several disposable tablecloths. Put one on the floor and one on whatever surface you let her paint on. When done, fold them inward and take to the garbage. Clean up is 10 times easier this way. You could get a child's beading kit to make mummy a Christmas present. Bracelets, necklaces, etc. If you tend towards more DIY, look up a recipe for salted dough and buy some washable paints. Put her hair up, sacrifice an old t-shirt, preferably one of her father's, and let it be a painting dress. Decorating for Christmas can be as simple as sheets of white paper and a pair of scissors. Make snowflakes. If you have access to a printer, there are a lot of templates to cut more elaborate shapes like Star Wars, probably not her jam, or cartoon characters. Michaels also usually sells kits to make little foam ornaments or decorations. Make them extra funny with a small package of googly eyes. One word of caution, stay away from glitter. You will shine for the next year. If something needs to be shiny, get glitter glue. I hope this helps. Opie replies, You are a gem. I've been so thrown I didn't even think of arts and crafts. Thank you. And now we have a new update, 1 month later. It's a boy. I don't know if anyone still cares, but Kate safely delivered a perfectly healthy little boy on Thursday and is now back home. Her sisters were by her side and it all went fairly quickly after she was induced. Bert is still MIA. Last we heard he was in Alaska with his brother. Kate's lawyer has been managing communications to keep the evidence trail as pristine as possible. He has been served, but of course these things take time. The little one asks about her dad every single day, and it breaks my heart, but I guess there's no help for that. We are following the therapist's advice and legal advice on that subject. I think it will get easier now her mum is finally home. On the home front, Kate is thrilled to be out of the hospital. We have all huddled up for a plan to help her over the next few months while she recovers. I'm on duty today, but everyone is currently napping, so it's quiet and peaceful. She asked for tacos, so Tim is making a taco run for lunch in an hour or so. I probably won't update again, but I did want folks to know she and her son made it through with flying colours. Some final comments. I know it's going to take years or decades, but in my mind, there will be a day where Kate is very happy that Tim decided to deliver tacos, and she got rid of this sorry excuse of a man. All the best, OP. Would love to get an update, but I understand if that's the end. Opie replies, To be honest, I think that's why she asked for tacos. Tim has been feeling crappy for how everything went down and how his bluntness, in his mind, contributed to Kate's complications and the kiddo's distress. Seeing Kate happy and relaxed, surrounded by her family, and everyone devouring tacos definitely cheered him up. It certainly cheered me up. I'm glad you're okay. Now, if possible, I have a question for you. Do Bert's parents approve of what he's doing? Please keep us posted until your friend gets his revenge on this pest. Opie replies, I don't know what Bert's bum thinks. I called her to let her know when Kate was scheduled to be induced and to invite her to Christmas at Kate's request. She never responded. Bert's father passed away a few years ago, which precipitated some of Bert's worst behaviours. I've only met his brother a handful of times, but given how he treats his wife, with tremendous devotion, I was surprised to hear Bert was there. I would have expected his brother to chew his ass out and send him home, but who knows what Bert is telling his family about the separation. It's very odd. I'm extremely curious, but sticking strictly to the path that the attorney has laid out for all communication. Kate might get some answers when the divorce response is filed, but his attorney has gotten an extension, so that won't be for a few months. Opie, it's just a suggestion of mine, but since there's a possibility that the brother is being deceived, would it be more receptive to send an anonymous message telling him what's really going on? It's just a suggestion because Bert really is an a-hole and needs to suffer a little. Opie says, Kate's sister and I both thought the same thing, but her attorney said absolutely not. We'll just have to wait for it all to come out in the wash. I'm so glad that you all are doing as well as can be. Wishing some peace and love in the new year. Alrighty folks, and that's the end of that story, or at least that's the last update so far. I'll keep an eye out for any future ones. But yeah, it seems like Kate's in a better spot right now, and honestly Opie and Tim are saints for everything they've done for her. I just hope that Bert's well and truly out of the picture now, and he ends up paying a lot of money in child support. Anyway guys, what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Anyway, we're going to move on to another story. Okay, this one was from Off My Chest. It's written by user Sashka23345, and it's titled, My dad only cries and smokes once a year. I want to comfort him. My dad only cries and smokes once a year. My mum died when I was 1 year old. She was killed by a drunk driver. Since then, my dad has been raising me by himself. I don't know how he did it, but he did a damn good job. I wasn't the best daughter, but he always stood by me and always took care of everything. He was there for every important situation in my life, from my first day of school, to my homework, to my first menstruation, to my first boyfriend, to my teenage rebel years. I love my dad, but every year on December 23, my heart is torn to pieces. On December 23, my mum passed away. Every year, my dad puts on a suit and takes cigarettes with him, even though he never smokes. On that day, he never lets me go to the grave with him. When I was 14, I followed him secretly to the cemetery. That's when I saw him cry for the first time, and my heart shattered. Now I'm 18, and every year since I was 14, I've followed him secretly to the cemetery. Right now, the date of December 23 is coming up, and I can't stay quiet anymore. I want to go with him and hug him at my mum's grave. I want to be there for him, but I don't know how to tell him. Please, Reddit, help me. Damn, that's sad. Let's go to the comments. I'm sorry for your loss, OP. It's a lovely thing to try and look after your dad. Show up and stand by him. Let him lean on you if he feels vulnerable. Get some flowers for your mum. OP replies, well, that's exactly what I want to do, but my dad shunned me from it all. That's why I'm wondering how to convince my dad to let me go with him. I want to be there with him. People are saying that you should just turn up, and I say, no. This is his space. This is how he grieves her loss. He has this 1 day a year, and you're not invited and should respect that. Give him a small bouquet and ask him to lay them from you, then leave him in peace. I'm going to take a different angle on this. Maybe your dad needs this 1 day to himself to grieve privately. It sounds like your mum was the love of his life, and her loss was so devastating, but he knew he had to push on for you, to love and nurture you, and raise you to the best of his ability. From what you say, he's done a great job. But on this tragic anniversary, he needs his time with his lost love, just the two of them. It's beautiful that you want to be there with him, support him, grieve with him. Now that you're older, gently ask if you can do that. But if he still says no, don't push it. Take that as a sign he needs to do this on his own, for himself and your mum. And also, he may agree to you accompanying him next time. He knows you want to. Let him think about it. My deepest condolences to you and your dad. Yeah, I tend to agree with that comment there, I think. Okay, OP updates 4 days later. This is an update to my last post. Thank you all for your advice. I decided not to intrude on his private ritual, but to do something nice for him. I went to my grandmother's house to get my mum's old cooking book. It was an old purple notebook where she wrote her recipes. I know my dad loved chicken stroganoff, so I wanted to make a meal that tasted like mum's. I bought a big bouquet for him on the way home. Before I started cooking, I wanted to copy the makeup that my mum had at the wedding, but I couldn't, it was too complicated, so I at least took her earrings and put them on. Then I started cooking and put my whole heart into the food. Dad was due home in a few minutes and I was incredibly nervous. When he walked in, I gave him a big hug and a bouquet. You should have seen his face, haha. When I told him I cooked him dinner, he started joking around like he always does, but then he noticed I was wearing my mum's earrings. I saw that he had tears on the edge of his eyes. We sat down and started eating. All by himself, he started talking about my mum. He never talks about mum, and if he does, it's only a little bit. I finally learned how they met. He always told me this silly story that when he was out for a walk, he saw crooked legs peeking out amongst the big grass by the lake. Well, supposedly it was my mum who was herding the geese, haha. Actually, they met at some club when they were 16 and he was smoking outside. He told me that my mum supposedly didn't like him at first. He said he was a delinquent and she was like an angel, but somehow he managed to make her fall in love with him. I wanted to dance with him after dinner. When he was younger, he loved to dance. I put on the song Nearer, My God, to Thee on TV. They played that song at their first wedding dance. He looked shocked again, and when I took his hand and pulled him out of the chair, I saw that he was starting to cry. We started dancing and I tried to imitate the dance he and my mum had danced at their wedding. I couldn't do it, but I'm glad I tried. When the song ended, something happened. My dad started crying and sobbing uncontrollably. I quickly hugged him. I started crying too, and while I was hugging him, I kept telling him how much I loved him, what a great dad he is, and that my mum would be very proud of him. He cried like that for about 5 minutes, and I kept hugging him. Probably his emotions have exploded after all of these years, and I'm glad for that. I'm glad he can finally cry in front of me too. When he calmed down, he thanked me for everything. We spent the rest of the evening watching movies. I'm glad I listened to your advice and didn't ruin his ritual. We now have a joint ritual on December 22. Today is December 23, and like every year, Dad put on his suit, took his cigarettes and also the flowers I gave him. He told me with a smile that he wanted to show them to Mum. I couldn't believe he was laughing. He always looks incredibly sad on this day, but not today. When he left, I started to cry. I think my mum will be very happy to see him smiling again. I want to answer some questions you had. 1. No, my dad never remarried. I never saw him with another woman. He still wears his wedding ring. Hell, we even have a huge poster of my mum in our living room because she worked as a model. 2. Mum died when she was 21. They got married when they were 19. And 3. No one helped my father with my upbringing. My dad didn't have parents and my mum's parents lived far away from us. I don't know how he did it when he was only 21, but I guess it's true that dads are heroes. Now some final comments. I'm sorry, this is weird. It's nice to honor your mother by making her food and wearing her jewelry, but trying to match the makeup to her wedding day and the dance, it feels like you're trying to replace her, not honor her. Opie says, that was not my intention at all. I just wanted to remind him of nice things and moments about Mum, and since I know next to nothing about her, I couldn't think of anything else, but it helped because he finally started talking about her. I'm glad to see this update. There are 2 things that adult men never ever get: flowers and compliments or affirmation. It's something that's ingrained in them and in us as women, that those things are things men don't need, but they do need them, even when they're just going through the motions every day and not acting like those are needed things. When you're seen as the provider and the strong one, it helps immeasurably to get feedback, to know that you're doing things right. Watch a little boy's face brighten when his mum tells him he's done a good job. That need to hear that he's done well doesn't just go away when the boy becomes a man. He just hides the fact that he would give anything to know that those he loves see him as successful in all the little ways that count. Good job on feeding him, both emotionally and physically. He's done a good job of raising you, and he's quite a dad. You'll find that your relationship is changing with him, that he's viewing you as less of a kid he needs to raise and more of a young adult, and that means he's going to tell you more about your mum as time goes on. Win-win for both of you. Yeah, great ending for Opie and her dad in the end there. But yeah, I kind of agree with that comment. It started off really heartwarming and then it got a little bit weird, but each to their own, I suppose. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, we're going to leave that story there and move on again. Okay, over on Am I the A-hole, this one was written by user Odd Locksmith and it's titled, Am I the A-hole for not removing a photo my girlfriend told me before she moved in with me? I, 26 male, think this is completely ridiculous, but maybe I'm actually wrong, so here goes. I've been with my girlfriend, 26, for 5 years, but we've known each other since we were 15. I'm fortunate to have my own place, and we've discussed for a while her moving in with me, as she's been staying in the house more often. This wasn't a problem until she was about to move in. I have a few photos in the house of me with members of my family. The problem is with a specific photo of me with my brother and father. She told me to remove the photo before she moved in to accommodate her. I asked her why. She answered that it's weird, but to me there's nothing weird about the photo. She's the one making it weird. Maybe the only thing weird about the photos is that all of them are when I was a child, but none of them are inappropriate or have something you can take the wrong way. She had no other argument and in the end I refused, and she said she wouldn't move in, and I was okay with that. This has been a topic of discussion for the past few days. Some of our friends and even my father said that I should remove the photo to make her feel welcome, but I just find that, again, ridiculous. What? Photos of your family in your own home? How is Opie's girlfriend, offended by that? Let's go to the comments. She had sex with your brother. That's why the photo makes her uncomfortable. There is no other explanation. This, all was assaulted by him. Something is definitely wrong here. Another comment says, wow, what a conclusion to jump to. Surely if that was the case, she would ask for all the photos of them to be removed, not just one photo she finds weird. If she can't or won't give you a proper reason to remove childhood photos of you and your family, it's a little concerning. My brain on both ends of the worst case scenario spectrum goes to either A, something negative happened between her and your brother, or her and your dad when you were all younger you don't know about, so it rubs her the wrong way seeing them all the time, or B, she's trying to see how much she can flex control coming into the space and wants to see how far she can push you to remove parts of your family. Those are two very extreme scenarios, and maybe it's nothing so nefarious, but if my partner said I need to get rid of a family photo or they wouldn't live with me, I'd need a really good reason to follow through. Not the a-hole. When I read the title, I fully expected it to be a photo of you with an ex or something, but it's just you with your family, doing normal stuff, and she can't even explain to you why it's weird. Something fishy is going on here. Opie replies, if it was a photo with a former girlfriend, it would be completely reasonable, even with a female friend, but this is not the case. This is the description of the photo. The photo was taken when my brother was 6 and I 7. In the middle is my father with a grin from ear to ear. To his left is my brother, buzzcut, standing straight like a soldier with a serious face. To my father's right is me, long hair, standing like a boxer from 1910 with my chin up in a mean mug, all wearing a suit because it was taken at my uncle's wedding. Opie edits adding that description and then says, she has met my family. She's always been respectful or friendly with them and vice versa. There hasn't been incidents or problems with any of them. I've asked her and she's denied it. Her problem is with the photo I described above. I have other photos with my father and brother individually. I do the same pose in various photos. I have one doing the same pose with my paternal grandfather where we would wear boxing gloves. He taught me the pose. She has stayed in the house multiple days, even weeks. She has things here. She's never brought up the issue. I'm all for compromising, but I need a proper explanation other than it's weird. I still have long hair, even longer than before. She's very fond of it, and not a problem. None of the photos stand out. They're put on a small part of the wall in the living room of the others, including the ones I'm with her. They're not big, or I'd basically be upholstering the entire wall. She had issues with her family, but they solved it, but I don't rule out that something happened that she hasn't told me. Small update. I'm reading your replies, but my apologies for not answering every comment. They're just too many. We have talked this morning, and this has nothing to do with me or my family, but hers. The photos brought some feelings, and she was feeling bad for someone else and not for herself. It has to do with one of her nephews. She's going through the same situation as her when she was 15. No sexual abuse for those concerned, and she's been blocked about what to do. She apologized for her behavior in the past few days and for taking it out on me instead of coming for help. I'm going to see her once I get out of work so she can tell me about it, and we can find a way to stop her from going nuclear on her family, and we can help her nephew. Okay, so we get a little bit of an explanation there, but there's still more here. Let's go to an update. Before the update, I will clarify some points, and also please excuse my English, it's my third language. I looked at the photo for a solid 30 minutes, and again, there's nothing remotely wrong. It wasn't taken at the wedding, but at the reception, and still, it wasn't a religious wedding, and you can't tell there's a party going on. Also, I said the size of the photo, but I was just spitting nonsense, it's smaller. Religion was noted. We are not religious, and we have no incidents related to it. My father's pose was also pointed out. I know it's hard to imagine it. His arms are not extended like a T. They're extended in an angle with his palms open, pointing at us like, look at them. I used grin, but smile is better. Synonyms in the end, but whatever. He says that in previous photos with him we just stand there and smile, and he expected the same, but we just came up with that. I was the first to pose, and when my brother saw me, he didn't know what to do and ended up standing still and serious. He also says that our poses described perfectly how we were in our childhood. My brother, the goody two-shoes, and me, the troublemaker. He was trying not to laugh his ass off, and that's why he had his eyes closed and a smile from ear to ear. You also pointed out that a member of my family molested or slept with my girlfriend. We might be a little wild, but we're not complete animals. Everyone in my family is friendly and, most importantly, very respectful to my girlfriend, the same way we are with my brother's wife, father's wife, and uncle's wife, women who joined our family and also treated us the same way. Besides, Grandma would cut our balls if we act inappropriately with any of them or other women. We, in any sense, would break someone's trust or would go lengths to split our already small family. We would rather lose an arm. And there are not incidents of this kind in my girlfriend's family either. Many of you jumped to extremes. I can't fault you given the amount of information I provided. I hope this update clears things up. The update. My girlfriend had problems with her family when she was 15. All of them, including her extended family, are involved in the medical field and they expect everyone to do the same. They were very supportive of her until she decided to follow a different path. They let her study what she wanted, but there was friction. They spent her high school years in therapy fixing their relationship, and they did, according to her. Now, her nephew, her brother's son, also wants to pursue a different career. He's been facing the same problems my girlfriend faced. He called her because he knows that she does something completely different, and because the relationship with his father and even with my girlfriend's parents changed drastically. The call happened days before she was about to move in with me, and what caused her behavior. My girlfriend wanted to deal with the situation before she moved in with me, and by herself. Unfortunately, she did it horribly. On the day of our fight, she hasn't thought about anything other than going ballistic. She was going to tell me about it and ask for help, but she decided to pick a stupid fight to buy time and deal with the situation. Not only the mentioned photo, but all of them brought bad feelings. She just selected the goofiest one. She not only felt bad for herself, but especially for her nephew. She doesn't have a problem with the photos, she likes them, or with my family. It's the contrast. I hope this makes sense. My family has always supported us no matter what, and the photo shows that. While with her family, it seems, their support is still conditional. She thought her family knew better at this point after what happened with her. In our first chat after I made the post, she apologized for her behavior and told me what I wrote above. She explained that she felt overwhelmed, and she broke down when the thought that I might be breaking up with her popped in her head. I never implied it, which prompted her to book an emergency session with her therapist. She had the session before our talk. She accepts and knows that everything could have been avoided if she'd told me what was happening. Despite what this situation implies, she's never made these types of demands and knows that I don't tolerate them. She completely regrets it. Our communication has always been good. We've always been open with our needs, problems, and what we want in the future. Not for nothing, we're moving in together. We already had a long trial thanks to the quarantine. I understand her a little because things have been going really well between us and with her family. The situation with her nephew came out of nowhere and shook her up a lot. She knows that I'm still a bit upset that it took her this long to come to her senses, and she keeps apologizing, but she's taking the right steps to move forward, so we're cool. We also talked, and still do, more in depth about us, and we're on the same page. I'm not going anywhere, and she's been more than explicit that she isn't either. She suggested couples therapy, and although I'm not against it, if we communicate like before and now, I think we'll be fine, but I don't rule it out. We're going to keep things as they are for now until the situation with her family is resolved, whatever the outcome, which made her rush to message her parents to set a meeting with them next week, lol. We're taking it easy and dealing with one problem at a time. The photos are staying and she'll bring hers once she moves in to put them with them, like we agreed before. I think I covered as much as I could. Thanks for taking the time, and I'll be checking the post if you have other questions. Phew, okay guys, that's the end of that story. Honestly, I'm still a little bit confused. I feel like she probably needs a little bit more time before they move in together again. Sure, it's okay to feel bad about your nephew and maybe your upbringing in general, but to target kind of like a completely unrelated photo like that and make it into such a big deal is a little bit worrying. I don't know, what do you guys think? Let's read some final comments. This reads a lot more cohesively with your eyes closed. I mean, what? I kind of understand that it might be more common these days, but is it just me, or does a good majority of posts always seem to mention immediate contact with therapists? This one had the girlfriend have an emergency contact with her therapist. Someone replies, a pretty significant portion do, but if they were mentally well-adjusted people who didn't need regular therapy, they probably wouldn't be getting posted about. Boring people with no mental health issues don't post on Reddit about how everything is going fine. I personally could get in to see my therapist for an emergency if I really needed to. She's made it clear to me that I can, as long as I don't abuse that privilege and use proper emergency services when appropriate. I'm not saying this post is real, but just that it can happen, and it'll happen much more often when you browse a community that's pretty much purely a highlight reel of insanity. Honestly, it's really tough when you see a younger family member going through the same crap you did growing up. I love it when guys have the sense just to go, no, when faced with a ridiculous left field demand. Life's so much simpler then. Half the stories on this sub could have been diffused at that point. Yeah, good point. I tend to agree. Anyway guys, we're going to leave it there. That's it from me today. Hope you guys enjoyed those stories. Thanks for making it to the end, and I'll see you all in the next video. Have a good day. Cheers.